Chapter 4. Disposition of the Army. Overview. This chapter discusses the principle of first creating a situation in which one cannot be defeated, and then waiting for an opportunity in which the enemy can be defeated, thus placing oneself in a position of invincibility. Sun Tzu believed that the outcome of war depends on the balance of strength between opposing sides. To defeat the enemy, one must first ensure overwhelming superiority in strength, thereby creating a swift and irresistible momentum. In addition, one must wait for favorable circumstances in which the enemy becomes vulnerable, and be skilled at identifying and exploiting those weaknesses. Only then can the enemy be overcome with ease. Sun Tzu once said, "War is a matter of vital importance to the state, a matter of life and death, the road either to survival or to ruin. It must be thoroughly studied." This clearly points out the seriousness of war and the necessity of a cautious attitude. A sovereign should not initiate war on impulse or out of anger, and a general should not engage the enemy out of personal resentment. Sun Tzu also proposed the idea, do not move unless there is profit, do not use troops unless there is advantage, do not fight unless the situation is critical, and act when it is beneficial, desist when it is not. Furthermore, he warned, loyalty may turn to anger, anger may turn to joy again. But a state once destroyed cannot be revived, the dead cannot be brought back to life. Thus, the wise ruler is cautious, and the good general is alert. This is the way to keep the country safe and the army intact. Sun Tzu also stressed that victory depends on the proper balance between attack and defense. When the forces are insufficient, one should defend. When forces are abundant, one should attack. In defense, one must conceal and protect oneself thoroughly. In offense, one must strike swiftly and catch the enemy off guard. In this way, one can both preserve oneself and achieve total victory. 1. Establishing invincibility before seeking victory. Sun Tzu said, in ancient times, those who excelled at leading troops to war would always first establish conditions that made themselves invincible, and only then wait for the opportunity to defeat the enemy. The ability to avoid defeat lies within one's own control, while the opportunity to defeat the enemy depends on whether the enemy presents a vulnerability to exploit. Therefore, a skilled commander can ensure they are not defeated, but cannot guarantee the defeat of the enemy. This is why it is said, victory can be foreseen, but cannot be forced. Reflections. Sun Tzu, from the perspective of military disposition, expounds the strategic concept of first making oneself invincible. He emphasizes that in order to remain undefeated, one must first build and strengthen their own power. The essence of first making oneself invincible lies in the issue of strength. In military struggle, it requires placing great importance on the training and development of the army, laying a solid foundation of power. Only with well-equipped troops, rigorously trained soldiers, and capable commanders who understand the art of warfare can a strong military force be established. Only then can one avoid being defeated by the enemy. General Li Mu's defense of the borders is a prime example of this strategy. When facing the Xiongnu, he consistently adopted a defensive posture, openly displaying weakness while secretly conserving strength. He reinforced military readiness in times of peace, reformed taxation, and waited for the right opportunity to strike. After several years, when conditions were ripe and the enemy attacked again, Li Mu lured them deep into his territory. He then ambushed them with troops hidden on both flanks, decisively defeating the Xiongnu, killing 100,000 of their forces, expanding Zhao's territory by 1,000 li, and securing the northern frontier. In a confrontation between two armies, the side with greater strength often hopes the weaker side will concentrate its forces and engage in a decisive battle, seeking a quick and total victory. Under such circumstances, the weaker side should adopt the strategy of if one is inferior, one must avoid direct confrontation. It should avoid the enemy's main force, preserve its own strength, and retreat in a timely manner. By tugging the enemy along, playing cat and mouse, circling and maneuvering, it can gradually wear down the enemy during movement, exhausting their strength. Ultimately, one must seize or create the right opportunity. When the enemy's morale declines, their supplies dwindle, reinforcements are cut off, and their troops are exhausted and dispersed, when they have committed major strategic errors, then one should concentrate superior forces to defeat the enemy's scattered units one by one, encircle and annihilate them completely. 2. True victory lies in preparation, not bravado. When one perceives that victory cannot be achieved, the appropriate strategy is to adopt a defensive position. When one sees that victory is attainable, then it is time to go on the offensive. Defense is used when conditions are insufficient. Offense is used when conditions are favorable. A master of defense hides like being buried deep in the earth, impenetrable and undetectable. A master of offense strikes like a thunderbolt descending from the sky, swift, sudden, and unstoppable. Thus, one can preserve oneself while achieving total victory. To see victory only when the masses already recognize it is not the highest form of excellence. Likewise, achieving victory through fierce combat and earning widespread praise from the world is also not considered the pinnacle of military strategy. It is like lifting a feather and calling it great strength, like seeing the sun and moon and claiming to have the sharpest vision, or like hearing thunder and claiming to have the keenest hearing. In the past, those who were truly skilled in warfare merely defeated enemies that were easy to defeat. Therefore, the victories achieved by those who are truly adept at war are neither renowned for exceptional wisdom nor praised for unmatched bravery. Their triumphs are inevitable because the measures they adopted were based on a foundation of assured success. They simply defeated opponents who were already destined to be defeated. Thus, those who excel in warfare ensure that they are never vulnerable to defeat and at the same time never miss an opportunity to defeat the enemy. A victorious army first establishes the conditions for certain success and only then seeks battle. A defeated army, on the other hand, first engages in battle and only afterwards seeks to win through luck. Reflections. In this passage, Sun Tzu discusses the art of effective offense and defense. To attack means to move from the heights of heaven, to strike suddenly, swiftly, and unexpectedly, catching the enemy off guard. To defend means to hide in the depths of the earth, to select a concealed position, wait for the right moment, withstand enemy offensives, and seek opportunities to defeat them. By remaining still to counter movement and responding to all changes with constancy, one can achieve the goal of self-preservation and total victory. Mastering both offense and defense has always been the key to victory in warfare. Whether attacking or defending, the goal is the same: to preserve oneself while defeating the enemy. A commander must choose between offensive and defensive strategies based on the strength of their own forces. When powerful and fully prepared, one should launch a decisive attack. When lacking strength or favorable conditions, one should adopt a defensive stance, preserving power and waiting for the right opportunity. Those skilled in warfare are able to remain undefeated because they seize the right moment and win before the battle visibly unfolds. Their victories neither boast of clever schemes nor rely on acts of bravery. Instead, they hold firmly to the initiative and ground their success in solid, dependable foundations. The phrase, "without reputation for wisdom or merit for bravery," suggests that such commanders conceal their intelligence and strength. On the surface, they may appear dull-witted or passive, but in reality, they are hiding lethal intent. In other words, in warfare, one must feign ignorance and avoid revealing intentions, all while secretly planning and waiting for the right moment to strike. During the spring and autumn period, when state of Chu prepared to attack the state of Song, the philosopher Mozi argued against the war by saying it was killing the insufficient to seize from the abundant, abandoning fine food for chaff and dregs. He debated the matter with King Chu and the craftsman Gong Shuban, relying on wisdom to dissuade them. When persuasion alone wasn't enough, Mozi demonstrated his city defense methods with a model fortress. Gong Shuban attacked 9 times and failed each time. Mozi then told the king that his disciples were already applying these methods to defend Song. Seeing this, the king was finally forced to abandon the invasion. Mosey succeeded not only with reason, but with strength. One must be prepared for war in order to argue for peace effectively. If Mosey had not bested his opponent in a military drill, the king of Chu would not have backed down. Such masterful strategy, defeating the enemy without bloodshed, was only possible because Mosey had ensured certain victory, preventing the invasion. He was truly a master of warfare. Sun Tzu repeatedly emphasizes the conditions necessary for victory. He advocates for caution in warfare, not fear. One must neither rush into war lightly nor miss any chance to defeat the enemy. Before engaging in battle, favorable conditions must be created to ensure a high probability of victory. This is the idea of planning before fighting. Sun Tzu opposes fighting first and seeking victory later. He believes that blind action only leads to disaster. Therefore, every battle must be preceded by meticulous planning and deployment. At the end of the spring and autumn period, King Helu of Wu ordered Wu Zishu to train the army and strengthen military readiness. Interestingly, Wu Zishu began by practicing how to lose battles. He believed that understanding defeat is the foundation of understanding victory. Only by finding ways to avoid failure, studying strategies thoroughly, and waiting for the right moment could one strike decisively and win. Wu Zishu and Sun Tzu, consistently upheld the principle of being aware of and guarding against defeat, using military force with great caution. As a result, they were unstoppable in battle and became legendary generals of their time. 3. Winning through order and leadership. A skilled commander ensures sound governance and upholds the rule of law, thus gaining the authority to determine the outcome of war. Reflections. Upholding the way and preserving discipline emphasizes the importance of strict political and military discipline within the army. Sun Tzu places the cultivation of political principles, the Tao way, above all else, believing it to be a decisive factor in determining the outcome of war. Upholding the way requires implementing satisfactory political measures, creating a sound economic environment, and fostering ethical and moral unity so that the ruler and the people are of one mind and the commanders and soldiers are united in purpose. Sun Tzu also sees law or discipline as another key factor in achieving victory. The military must operate in accordance with clearly defined rules. Only when military discipline is enforced can operations proceed in an orderly and effective manner. An army without discipline is a chaotic army, one destined for defeat. For the laws of victory, strategic evaluation, and absolute advantage. The guiding principles for achieving victory in war are as follows. Assessment. Evaluating and predicting the size and terrain of the battlefield. Measurement. Calculating the quantity and capacity of military supplies. Counting. Determining the number of troops participating in the battle. Comparison. Understanding the equipment and strength of the armies. Victory. Determining the conditions necessary for success. One estimates the breadth and features of the battlefield based on its size, calculates the volume of supplies needed based on the amount of supplies, determines the troop numbers required based on troop strength, compares the forces of both sides, and from this comparison analyzes and predicts the outcome of the war. Thus, a victorious army overwhelms its enemy as if weighing heavy E against light Ju, a position of overwhelming superiority. In contrast, a defeated army is like weighing Ju against E, hopelessly disadvantaged. The troops of the victorious side surge forward like a flood bursting from a valley 1,000 fathoms deep, unstoppable and powerful. This is the ultimate expression of concentrated military strength. Reflections. This passage reflects Sun Tzu's concept of assessing the likelihood of victory. Sun Tzu believed that whether in military competition or in launching a war, one must act according to one's capacity. A nation's military power must be based on its comprehensive national strength. The development of military capabilities must consider 5 interrelated elements: scale, quantity, measurement, assessment, and victory. These components are linked in a logical sequence, with each one giving rise to the next. The size of a nation's territory determines its available resources. The amount of resources dictates the armed forces it can support. The size of those forces determines the nation's military strength, which in turn influences the outcome of war and the security of the state. These aspects must be coordinated and kept in proportion to ensure balanced development. If military expansion disregards national capacity and grows excessively in one area, the resulting imbalance will eventually weaken, rather than strengthen, the nation's military power. As a strategic principle, flexibility and adaptability are essential in competition. Flexibility refers to swift responsiveness to changing circumstances, including rapid information processing, timely decision-making, and efficient action and feedback. Adaptability refers to the ability to adjust plans, bypass obstacles, and overcome difficulties when faced with unexpected situations or setbacks, rather than adhering rigidly to original strategies. Sun Tzu also discusses the dynamics of strength and weakness. In warfare, the art of command lies in exploiting one's own strengths and avoiding one's weaknesses. A general superiority, if poorly managed, can lead to local disadvantages and defeat, what Sun Tzu describes as weighing an ounce against a pound. Conversely, overall inferiority, if skillfully leveraged, can create local advantages leading to victory, weighing a pound against an ounce. Therefore, commanders must plan with great care. They should not only capitalize on their strengths, but also work to transform weaknesses into strengths and defeat the enemy with the force of a torrent crashing down from a 1,000-foot ravine. An example is the victory of General Li Mu of Zhao over the Xiongnu in 224 BCE. At the time, the state of Zhao suffered frequent harassment by Xiongnu raiders. To counter this, the renowned General Li Mu was appointed. He began by feigning weakness, constructing fortified outposts along the border and ordering his troops to train near the fortresses. When the Xiongnu attacked, Zhao's soldiers would retreat into the forts and avoid engagement. Over time, the Xiongnu became overconfident, believing the Zhao army to be timid. In fact, Li Mu was using deception to lull the enemy into complacency, creating the illusion that invincibility lies within oneself, while victory depends on the enemy. He was carefully preparing for a decisive strike. Eventually, the Xiongnu launched a major invasion, only to be ambushed by the once passive Zhao forces, who now struck with the ferocity of wolves and tigers. The Xiongnu suffered a devastating defeat and dared not invade Zhao again for over a decade. In warfare, the outcome of strength versus weakness depends on the commander's ability to manage it. Superior strength, if mishandled, can become local weakness, leading to defeat. Inferior strength, if wielded wisely, can create local superiority and turn the tide. A later example is the Battle of Saru in 1619. The Ming Emperor Wanli dispatched General Yang Hao with a force of 110,000 to attack the later Jin capital of Hechualiang. Hao divided his army into 4 columns. In response, Nurhaci, leader of the later Jin, applied the strategy of concentrating force to defeat the enemy one by one, saying, "No matter how many routes you take, I will use just one." Nurhaci mobilized all 60,000 of his 8 banner troops to strike the Western Ming force under Du Song, annihilating 30,000 Ming soldiers in a single blow. He then turned northward, causing the Ming commander Ma Lin to retreat without a fight, and finally surrounded and defeated the remaining forces. General Yang Hao, seeing the situation deteriorate, quickly ordered a retreat. With just 60,000 troops, Nurhaci defeated a Ming army nearly twice his size, achieving a crushing victory at Saru.